calling the whole podcast.
Hello, we call
Alina, Bock.
People are like, oh, I tried to listen to this podcast, but I couldn't.
I couldn't.
They can't even sing.
I'm your daddy.
I can be smart when it's important.
I'm your daddy. I'm
Sorry to this
I'm your daddy.
Welcome to Daddy Dailies, a podcast hosted by Not Your Daddy's Films. On a film set, dailies are sent out after a shoot day so you can see the work in progress. Daddy Dailies are conversations that go behind the scenes so you can see what work went into the process and be better armed to succeed in the industry. Daddy Dailies, hosted by Not Your Daddy's Films.
Welcome back to Daddy Dailies. I'm Vika, one of the co-founders of Not Your Daddy's Films. I'm super excited to jump in today with our guest. She is an accomplished actor, comedian, and digital creator. You know and love her from her viral videos on Instagram and TikTok, where she has a measly 1.9 million followers. Her stage time at Groundlings and UCB, and the hit YouTube series Bad Boy. Her sketch group Chat, is featured at Austin Sketch Fest in 2024, and most recently she appeared in the romantic comedy Magic Carpet Rides and Mark, Mary, and Everyone We Know, directed by Hannah Marks. I'm so excited to welcome Alina Bock to Daddy Dailies.
Hi! Wow, what a great... I need to listen to that every morning when I wake up for my,
daily affirmations.
Up.
Yeah, that's right. I'm Alina Bock of Mark, Mary, and some other people.
You are Alina Bock.
Industry professional.
I know.
I love being called that.
Well, you are.
And so are you. Look at us.
Look at us.
From acting class to industry professionals.
Yeah, we met in acting class at a studio in Los Angeles called Leslie Kahn. And
I imagine people from LA listening to this either going, yeah, or, ugh.
I know, it's a very polarizing place.
Yes.
People have strong opinions on acting classes
Every
in
acting
LA.
class, though, to be fair.
Yeah, every acting class, you talk to an actor out here and they're like, I had the time of my life.
Yeah.
Or they're like, that is
It's a cult.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
They're like, don't
Go there.
I got trapped in the basement for months. Just kidding. That didn't happen at Leslie Kahn.
We're fine. She's fine. Everyone's fine.
Everyone's fine.
We learned so much.
Honestly, I did. Also,
Same.
just from classmates like you, because you're so. Alina is one of the freest in her body, most connected to her body actors that I've met, outside of a college theater class where we were all rolling around on the ground. You're very physical in a way that I think a lot of performers get in their head. And so it's just everything from the neck up is working and then the body is just disconnected. And so when someone's really in their body, you can see it and feel it. And,
But I also think it's easier when you like physical comedy, when you don't mind looking silly.
Yeah.
Especially as women, we learn acting and all of the performance art, whatever we learn, but we're also told at the same time, there's a ticking clock on your youth and the value of your youth and the value of how you look and your body and all of that. It's mixed signals.
Yeah, I think it put this fear in me because I've always looked younger than I am, that one day I'm going to wake up and be an ogre and I'll wake up and be Shrek and it's then I'm caught in a fairy tale and someone has to kiss me and then I won't be green anymore. No,
That's a very realistic fear.
I know it really is. No, but yeah, there is this as cliche as it might sound, there is this sort of expiration date that people put on you a bit, and you're okay, well, if I don't make it by 25, then no one's gonna want my creative juices, you know?
Yeah.
That was gross. Sorry.
Yeah. No. But it's true.
Yeah. And when you...
And a close-up of your face and how we have learned in acting school is don't wrinkle your forehead. You get taught those things alongside the how to find a character and how to connect to your emotions. You also get taught those things, which is very distracting.
Yeah. It's really distracting from the craft itself. I just saw this viral video that was from an interview with Viola Davis where she was like, your job as an actor is not to be beautiful.
Right.
Your job is to be a person and reflect the human experience. And I've been having these as I think all people in the world, just been feeling like super insecure lately. And hearing that was such a good reminder
Yes.
that what I want to do, while it is connected so innately to my brain and my voice and my body, is really about like my storytelling ability in all of those areas, rather than like how skinny my wrists are or whatever.
Or how snatched your jaw is, or how many wrinkles you have. And I mean, for storytelling, you need to have stories to tell. You know, not that young people have a POV, and then as you grow older, you have more experiences, a different POV on the world, and it is just as valuable, if not more valuable, to bring to a story, a character, whatever. Like, it's just so counterintuitive to think that aging is bad for art.
I completely agree.
It's just not true. But it's also one of my biggest insecurities because it's so deeply stuck in my brain. Like when I go to when I check out at Trader Joe's and I buy wine and they don't ask me for my ID, I have a crisis.
You're like,
because I know you have to look older than 35 for them not to ask you. This is insider knowledge. Trader Joe's insider knowledge. Dun dun dun.
dun, dun, dun.
So every time, you know, she takes the wine bottle and she like looks at me and then she's like, doesn't ask me. I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I'm not older than 35, but I have not been carded many a time, so I'm going to internalize that. I'm just
also,
kidding.
there's nothing wrong with looking over 35.
No, there's literally,
but
that is the point.
And
yeah.
that is the whole fuckery of the brain.
Yeah. I think that life experience, like you were saying, is really what makes you good at your craft and informs all these things. Like, working in a writer's room, and you think about how, or I think about like what composite of different types of people you want to have here, and so much of that is their life experience and what stories from their own lives do they bring to the table.
Yeah,
and that has only something to do with age, in that it's like, oh well, what life experiences have you had? What can you speak to?
Right. And then if you talk about something and someone's like, oh well, I had an experience with that, and then it's so nuanced and it's so good, and it's just the first rule of writing, like write what you know, and you just know more things when you're older.
You know more things.
Unless you know, sit in a basement. But even then, like, let's say you're someone who's like 60 and you decided because of anxiety you spent the majority of your lifetime in a basement. I'm sure the internal struggle that you have, the internal many struggles that you've been through and learned about yourself and about loneliness or whatever, you know, is still so valuable.
Yeah, I agree. So then taking that like idea of life experience, you were born in Germany.
Correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about growing up there, and like, did you always want to be an actor, a performer, a writer? Was comedy always the goal, or how did you come to that?
Since I can think, which I think was around the age of 3. No, I think you can always think, but the memories start kicking in at 3. Forever, all of my existence, I've wanted to be on stage or in front of a camera. Like, I wanted to be an actor, storyteller. I think that, and growing up in Germany, I mean, we also obviously had, you know, TV, our own TV shows, our own movies, but I watched a lot of like 90s comedies, and that was
From America.
Yeah. Exactly. And that was always the best escapism, because then also my parents got a divorce. I grew up with a single mom, and things weren't always easy. And then we had to go on like social welfare because my brother was only 1. And so life was hard at a lot of stages of my life. And watching comedies was the best experience in the world. And also watching something like Clueless, where you see their biggest problem in life is like wearing the same dress at a party. I was like, I want that.
Yeah, I want that problem.
I want that problem. And I want to make people laugh. And I want to be in a movie in America that's just about making people laugh. And I think that's when I had this emotional attachment to comedy. And also always naturally just performed in front of my family, or at the dinner table, I was always doing different accents and different characters. I didn't know it then. I wouldn't have been able to label it that way. And I don't think I ever dreamt of actually being in a movie in America at that stage of my life. But I just knew I wanted to be on stage.
Yeah.
And I didn't know I was doing characters or I was doing like sketch comedy, even though me and my friends were doing that.
Yeah. You're not thinking about it that way.
Right,
You're like,
exactly. You're just playing.
You're playing.
You're in the flow state.
100%. So your comedic style that you've developed as like from that early age to now, influenced by all the things you watched and your experiences, like hearing you talk about how life wasn't always easy, I feel like that explains so much about why your comedy is so good. Like you and I have talked about this off of the podcast, but I think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we agree that comedy is a release, and it's always really great when it's rooted in drama. You know,
Yes.
there's like real stakes to it, and it isn't like, oh, I'm gonna do a funny voice just to be weird and silly.
Yeah.
It's rooted in like a real experience or something that's kind of painful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just recently had a moment where I found a new appreciation for comedy and not the performative kind, but me and my mother was going through, my mom was going through a little bit of a health scare. She's fine.
Good.
But while she was going through
I'm
it.
glad she's good. Not that
she's-
she went through that.
Yeah. Good. She really needed to learn that lesson.
God, how horrible.
No. I took it as the
Yeah,
The
I'm
latter
really
one.
glad that
Yeah.
she's doing well.
But while we were in the midst of it, me and my sister, and we already had lost one parent earlier on in our lives, me and my siblings. And so it was very triggering and very hard to go through it. And while my sister and I were talking about it, she made a joke about it, you know, like she made a joke about one of the treatments. And we laughed for 10 seconds, and it instantly took off the weight.
Yeah.
For 10 seconds. It was like the weight was lifted by balloons because we allowed ourselves to laugh and to make fun of the situation. Not fun of our mom, but
No, but just
something
like,
surrounding the situation.
yeah.
And it felt so good. And to share it with someone, to feel this sort of temporary release or relief, what's the word?
Both, I
Both,
think.
yes. With someone else.
Yeah.
And laughing is just, your whole body is involved. Like, you can't be sad. You know, you can't be anything else while you're genuinely laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the best feeling in the world. And it made the whole situation feel easier, lighter. And because for something to feel heavy and depressing is
Constantly.
very easy.
Yeah.
It's very easy to feel that way, I think.
Yeah,
and to
it's-
give in to that.
And to like stay in that, like kind of keep riding the horse in the direction it's going.
Yeah.
Like stay on this path. And
Yeah.
so when you can break that up with anything,
Yes.
it's such a welcome
Yeah.
release.
And then to go back to your question, and I think that's what it always was. It was always, I saw people in pain around me, and I wanted to take that pain away from them, and probably from myself as well,
Yeah.
unknowingly. And for people, even, you know, we can say a lot of bad things about social media, and it's not as respected an art form as books or movies or TV. But people spend a lot of time there, and if you're in pain and you go on TikTok and you laugh for 30 seconds about something,
Yeah.
I think that's a great value.
I agree. That's like the perfect transition because, like we mentioned, we met in acting class. You've been an actor and a writer as long as I've known you. And then in 2020, when the pandemic hit and we were all inside, you were working at a restaurant. So that's when I remember you really dedicating yourself to making your videos on your own. Like you were always doing sketch
Yeah.
and comedy, but this was like sort of a new chapter. Can you talk a little bit about like why you started doing more of your own content in
Yeah.
that time?
It was a really, I mean, first of all, before the pandemic, I was working multiple restaurant jobs and translating scripts. I had no time for
Translating from German to English or
translating-
vice versa?
Yes, exactly. And I had no time for self-care. And I was constantly, I mean, I was living the typical actor life, but also like, you know, getting older and not having the resume and like all of those things that are constantly weighing on you. And me and my friends were doing a lot of live comedy. So I kind of all came together when the pandemic hit, which I'm sad that, you know, I got a benefit out of something that was so devastating for so many people. Obviously, needless to say, I wish it didn't take a pandemic.
Oh, of course.
For,
yeah.
you know.
But I think a lot of people had that experience of like, oh, so many of the normal day-to-day things were taken away from us.
Yeah.
So either you had to like face your fear of like for me, spending time alone.
Yeah.
We can do that. That's for my therapist.
Ooh,
But
let's do an episode after this where I question you.
okay, perfect. But yes,
Yeah.
totally. I think that the pandemic was awful and so stressful for honestly everyone. It was like this global experience.
Yeah.
But in that,
Yes, aside from that, because I don't want to seem like ignorant, I was like, it was great for me. I lost all my jobs and went on unemployment, which was more money than all of my jobs because California was really good with like the pandemic bonus or whatever they called
Yeah.
it. And because I had only jobs, except for translating, I only had jobs that had to go away because of the pandemic. So then suddenly I was at home.
like serving and like
Yeah,
people weren't going to
serving,
restaurants.
wedding catering and
Mhm.
like all of those, and hiking guide, tour
Oh,
guide,
I
and like
forgot you did
all
that.
of those jobs
Alina used to do guided hikes
in Griffith Park.
Yes.
Yeah. And, you know, the occasional acting job, but I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't pay our bills. And then I was at home. I was fine, you know, financially. And I had time to journal and do yoga and be outside and go on long walks. And then the creativity sort of, it just started up again out of a point of curiosity because I had the time and the space. So I was curious about these ideas and I had new ideas and I was excited about them and I wanted to put them out and I couldn't put them on a stage. So then my friend Nicole, Nikki Doobs, she's the first one who went out of my friend group, my comedy friend group, who went on TikTok, was like, I put my characters up on TikTok. We were like the dance apps for young people, for teenagers.
The dance app?
What? And then she was like, I mean, it doesn't matter as long as, you know, you get feedback from people.
Yeah.
And then,
Good advice, Nikki.
yeah, good advice. And then also my friend Caitlin was doing more. And so,
Caitlin Riley, I'm sure you guys are familiar.
yes,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of her. And my friend Anastasia Narinsky. And so everybody was starting alongside me also to create more content online. And it was just a new outlet. At first, it was just pure curiosity and pure fun and play.
Yeah.
And then when it started to take off, I, at one point during the pandemic, made a very conscious effort because it was never tangible for me before to have a social media job,
Yeah.
to have my income through comedy. But it became tangible. I saw it could be possible. And then I made a very conscious effort to treat it as my full-time job so that when the pandemic was over, I would never have to go back to
jobs you didn't want to
jobs
do.
I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you and you were like, I write down these ideas and I make 3 videos a day.
Yeah. Yes.
And yeah,
that
right?
was the month in, I think, like 2020 or 2020 at some point. I was like, all right, people are saying like you have to post 3 times a day. It was like, that's insane for the type of content I make. Like other people, you know, they jump online and they
Talk to the camera.
talk to the camera, and that's great. That's not me. And I'm terrified if I have to say something as myself on social media, because how is it not performative? Like, how do you make it so that it's organic, you know?
Yes,
Because
and
like
not
you're
like,
holding
oh,
a
the
camera
camera's
in
on
your
me.
right.
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, like hey guy, and then already it's like
And you're like, my voice sounds weird. My voice
"What-
sounds
what-
weird.
What? So all my comedy is like sketches and characters. So it was like, that's insane to upload 3 videos a day. But then I was like, but also if this was my full-time job and I treat it like another job where you go to the office for 8 hours a day, then it's not that insane.
No. And I remember you very specifically telling me, like, I don't have to post all 3 that I make.
Yes.
I'm just
Yeah.
going to make them because I feel like that takes the pressure off you.
Yes.
You're like, I have an idea. I'm going to test it out.
Yeah.
I have a green screen. I've never used a green screen. I'm going to test that out.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of idea I think is actually quite freeing and goes back to that childhood play.
Yes.
You're like, okay, maybe this is stupid, but I'm alone in my apartment with my cats. And
Yes.
like, why not just see if this is how I imagine it in my head?
And actually, for me, it was great because I'm the forever overthinker and the forever it's not perfect and the forever procrastinator out of fear.
Yeah.
I start things and then I don't finish, like scripts or something, and then I don't finish them because I'm afraid I won't do it justice or I'm not actually good at it. And you know the fear of having an idea in your head and pulling it down into reality, it will become different and smaller because
Yeah.
in your head you have no limitations,
Yeah.
but in real life you do.
Yep.
And so just it becomes something else and it's scary. But when you have this deadline that was fully imposed on myself, but
Yeah.
because I want to please everyone, including myself, I had to then make 3 videos a day. It sometimes forced me to make something imperfect and just be done with it.
I love that.
And then sometimes the videos that I didn't even want to upload, I was like, but I said I was going to post today. I uploaded it anyway, and some of them went viral. And I was like, okay, so I don't have to forever overthink.
Yeah.
I can just get this idea out of the way and move on to the next.
What a nice positive reinforcement for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
'Cause
wonder how it had gone.
If people had been
everyone
like,
was like, this bitch. Oh my God, her comedy's terrible.
did a
Go
so
back to Germany. I'm like,
the
"All right,
land of comedy.
Never mind.
So okay, I have 2 questions on that. One, when you saw that this was like a way for you to make money, because if like there is an avenue for comedians and people who do sketch like you to do branded videos and to do like make appearances because now you're kind of a known commodity. Did you like that aspect? Like when you were getting like, oh, a brand wants me to make a video about X and these are the parameters. Was that like interesting and fun, or did it feel like it was taking away from the other things you were making?
So I've always felt very ambiguous about it. I still do. And the goal was never to just get rich. The goal was always to be able to pay my bills with comedy instead of serving, but always say no to the things that feel inauthentic or that don't serve the long-term goal of being a working actress.
Yeah.
So I never wanted to become an influencer. And I've always tried to say no to things that are very influency. Not that there's something wrong with it. I just
not
want to
you.
stay in like this like hybrid lane. And so when those opportunities first arrived, I was hesitant to tie my comedy or my art to monetizing it. But then I also find a lot of joy in it because it's marketing, and I feel like a one-woman marketing agency sometimes, you know, like I get to deliver creative concepts. My manager knows that I will only do campaigns if I can do comedy.
Yeah.
And I've had really pleasant experiences with clients, and I love it. I really do like it. And I really try to say no to anything that doesn't feel authentic to my platform. and I try to not post too many ads. But I also think that I create hundreds of videos for free, and people consume. And so if there is an ad in there that helps me pay my rent, then that's just the way it is.
I fully support that. I think that's a really nice approach to give yourself the guidelines of like, this needs to fit within my comedy sphere.
Mhm.
I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be an actor and a writer.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's like so nice to have those guideposts.
Yeah.
Because it is like, well, I don't know. Maybe after this podcast, I'll become a very fancy influencer. But like, I can imagine that if people are offering you money when, like, I've, like you, worked a million jobs and struggled
Yeah.
to pay my rent at times. And when you're like, wow, I could make money doing X, Y, Z, like it could I could imagine myself being like, maybe I should do all of them.
Yeah.
And so it's nice to hear you say like, okay, I created these like 3 pillars for myself and it
Yeah.
fits within that.
Mhm.
I'm down to do it, which
Yeah.
is really awesome.
And luckily also there was a lot of like promoting TV shows or promoting movies, which is just, I love to talk about what I'm watching right now. So
Yes.
it was like perfect. And also, if I can make a little bit of extra money and put it towards my own career, put it back into myself, like making short films and stuff like that,
Yeah.
great. Sign me up.
100%. Yeah. Okay. So I kind of hate this question because it's so broad, but when you had the space in your life, when you weren't working 12 jobs and you were feeling creative again, and were you getting ideas on walks from everyday life? Like when you were like, okay, this might be the nugget of something, what is your process for then coming up with the video that you end up making?
Sometimes I call it downloading ideas because that's what it feels like to me. It's very in the vein of, is it Elizabeth Gilbert?
Big Magic?
Big Magic.
Yes.
I think she thinks like all ideas exist, and we don't have ownership over them. We just are vessels to them. And I
Yeah.
very much agree with that sentiment. That's what that's what ideas feel like to me. And sometimes, and I download them mostly when I'm doing something else, when that one part of my brain is like occupied, driving, a lot of times
Showering.
driving.
Yeah.
And sometimes I download them partially. Like it's just a little glimpse of something. And sometimes they come fully finished.
Cool.
Sort of like a full beginning, middle, and end. This is the idea. This is the plot or the character. And sometimes there's just something funny about the way someone said something or the combination of, one idea and another together.
Yeah.
And then for the longest time while I was serving, we are all downloading ideas constantly. But then if you let it go, if you don't do anything, if you don't materialize it, it'll go away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I first started just the second I have an idea, I write it down somewhere.
Yeah.
On my phone, somewhere. And then I tried to get to making it pretty fast.
Yeah, so you can still remember what excited you about it.
Yeah. And sometimes when I have an idea late at night, I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow. I sit down the next day, I'm like, I don't find this funny anymore. Like, what was it again? But usually the process is I have this idea and I try to get to it pretty fast, write it down. Or sometimes if it's a character, I will just grab a camera and my lights and my green screen and just improvise it.
Oh,
and then
fun.
hope that I have enough to spin a story in editing.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
the lazy
you're almost
approach.
like the documentarian.
It's
of
the
like, I'm
lazy
gonna find
approach.
the-
I'm like, I don't want to sit down and like carve out a story. I'll just go, because the idea will never fully reveal itself until you start making it.
Wow.
You can't plan it all. You have to stay open to the fluid nature of ideas until you're done editing.
I'm just laughing because
I talk like I'm Steven Spielberg.
No, I mean, it's so beautiful and it's like really, I'm going to sound so cheesy, but it's like penetrating my soul. And I'm like, oh my God.
You're like, oh.
Like, I don't need therapy this week. Like, I need to just like let it flow.
Yes. But that scares me sometimes. It scares me because you have to like stay open, you have to stay vulnerable, and sometimes I'm so afraid that I won't get it right, that I'm too tense, and then I don't get it right. And you know what? That's okay too, because you put it out there, it's gone.
Yeah.
You learn from it. You are on to the next. But yes, the steps are I download an idea. Sometimes I don't do anything with it. And if it keeps bouncing around in my head, if it stays, I know I have to make it.
Yeah.
I have to make something with it. And there have also been times where I was overthinking it for so long that when I finally made it, I didn't even know what it was anymore, and it also didn't work.
Got it. Okay. So you have this character, 90s girl, who is like a younger version of yourself.
Yes.
Because you also play your sister at times.
Yeah.
And then you also have these that are some of my personal favorites where it's like you are talking to your younger self or your younger self is asking present day you questions. And I think there's like a unique experience to being a woman and like kind of what we talked about earlier with aging, like just this idea of like milestones and not that doesn't exist for people who identify as men, but I do think that the era in which we grew up, there are these like societal markers that are set out for women. And I feel that reflected in your videos in a really fun way. Was that conscious or is that just like life experience?
I think because I'm so interested in topics such as societal expectation on women and the pressure to, or like the expectation, the inherent value that comes with having children or getting married, like for society to look at those things as achievements instead of choices. I just am naturally curious and interested in those topics because I lead a life that is different.
Yeah.
I'm 39. I'm not married and I don't have children, and those are choices, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
It just flows into my content.
Yeah.
It's just there. But like that one video that I made where it's my teenage self talking to my adult self, and was like, did we marry Kyle? And she's like, no, we actually didn't marry. We're actually not married. And my teenage self is just like, what? The idea was purely comedic in my head.
Yeah.
There was nothing like social commentary about it. It was only like, oh, that would be so funny. But then as I was making it, I was like, oh, but also
there is a little bit of
there
this.
is a lot of that, actually. Yeah. And actually, when I was in Germany a couple of years ago, I was doing a play there, and one of the women, the choreographer working on it, was like looking at my content, and she was like, oh, wow. And some of it is very like, you know, rooted in truth. And she sounded so
your face right now.
She sounded so serious. And I was like, yeah.
You're like, comedy is rooted in truth.
She's like, wow, this is very like self-reflective. I was like, yeah. She took it so serious, and I was like, I'm worried for you. Do you understand comedy?
I'm worried.
She took it so literal, you know. She thought like I was being sad.
Oh no.
And I was like, no, it's all good.
It's all good.
And actually, when I think about my teenage self, I was actually never like thinking about getting married, if I'm being honest.
No, I
it was
wasn't
like
either.
never of interest to me ever in my life.
I remember a high school teacher. We were talking about something. I really hated the idea of being boy crazy. I remember hearing like a group of moms talking about it, and it sounded really negative. And so I kind of internalized that and was like, I'm never going to be boy crazy. And
the slut shaming started early.
So early. And, you know, there is truly nothing wrong with that. But as a child, you just kind of like, you internalize tone of voice and and like you don't really know. Like, I didn't think further on what made that quote unquote bad in my mind, but like I thought a lot about that. And then I remember later in high school when everyone's dating and I had like the most massive crushes of my first love, and it was like the biggest emotion ever. And I was like, I can't tell anyone that because I can't let them think I'm boy crazy.
Yeah, right.
You know? But there was a teacher who was talking to like a group of us girls about XYZ, I don't even know. But I remember this sentence of like, well, every young woman imagines their wedding.
Oh,
And it was from a male teacher.
oh, of course.
And even at that moment when I was probably like 15 years old, I was like, I've never thought about my
Something's
wedding.
wrong with me. Yeah.
I've thought about a lot of other things. At the time, I wanted to be a Broadway star.
Right, exactly.
You know, I was
Just,
like, I thought about
on stage,
that.
everyone admiring me.
I was so much more focused on like, you know, on stage, everyone admiring. Just breeze by
All my
that.
classmates.
Exactly. I was like, I'm more interested in that. I wanted to like be maybe an astronaut or like, girl, young Vika, you were not good enough in science for that. But like all of those things, and it's just such a message that we receive throughout our lives. And I hope that it's better now for, you know, women, non-binary, they're like gender identity is so much more expressive and fluid, and like there's less of this binary. Girls wear pink and boys wear blue. You know, I love that we're finally being like gender is a construct.
Yeah.
Because it felt so rigid when I was growing up to be like, oh, is there something wrong with me that I'm not imagining my wedding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, me too. I always rejected those gender stereotypes, and I don't even know why, like where that came from. Cause,
A rebellious nature.
yeah, probably. But yeah, I think it's terrible because it's such a waste of energy that we just spend our whole, or, you know, some of people who identify as women and then who feel like they're not, no matter what they do, feel like they haven't arrived or aren't good enough because they don't have children or they're not married or they haven't. But it's all the rhetoric.
Yeah.
It's all throughout our lives, and it's still there. It's just like finding a man, keeping a man, making a man happy, and it always puts the choice with the men.
Mm-hmm.
And the men, and this is like, you know, straight cis gender stereotypes, but it's although they can do whatever they want and they can be mediocre and they still have the choice.
And like we have the choice. It's just that
Right.
there's a lot. It feels like there's a lot more judgment on that.
Yeah. And I
you know,
also remember that. I mean, when people started when we were teenagers, old enough to have your first sexual experiences, it was only ever considered bad for the teenage girls to sleep around or to have sex early. And there was never any talk about repercussions or judgment for teenage boys.
Yeah.
In fact, one of the guys that I was dating, and by dating I mean holding hands, I was a very late bloomer.
As was I.
Yeah, no.
Holding hands and walking the loop around the park was like, well, you're dating now.
Yeah. And then they wanted to make out, and I didn't know how to. And remember the first time you had a French kiss, and it was just the worst experience ever?
I remember being so, like outside my body and just being like, this is very wet.
Yeah. Because it's supposed to be this fast. It wasn't great. But his dad, we would always hear that his dad wanted him to finally, you know, have a girlfriend and like have sex and like have that experience, sort of.
Do you remember how old you were?
I think 16.
Okay.
And imagine my single mom
being like, I want you
to go, and you know, which I think today's parent, like, if you want that for your teenage child, that's great, as
like,
long as everything is
safe and
it's exactly what they want
consensual
and consensual.
yeah.
Yes, go experience everything. But if my single mom had said that or anyone had heard that, it would have raised so many red flags. And with the boys, it was just all like,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So post first French kiss.
Oh my goodness.
Did you go
I
to
had
college?
braces.
Get braces?
I
You got
had
braces.
when I had my first French kiss. I always thought you can't French kiss with braces.
Oh my goodness.
But he was like very experienced, and he was like, don't worry about it. I won't feel it.
So So I didn't think you could French kiss with gum in your mouth, and I made the boy spit it out.
Good.
I was like,
Disrespectful.
He's like, okay.
I think he like swallowed it. He's like, gulp. I'm gonna get my first kiss.
Ready.
But I want to talk a little bit. Sorry, did you go to college?
I went to the University of Cologne to study German, English, and music
Wow.
for 2 years before dropping out.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and did that have anything to do with before you dropping
I dropped out. Well, no, but it all happened very quickly. So I went to university because I had to do something. Like,
I had to do
to do something, and I got sort of like in Germany. You go to different schools, and then you get different high schools already, and so you can either get sort of the high school education that you can go to college, or you go to a high school where you are not eligible to then like go to university.
Oh, wow.
So I got like a really good education, and then I had to do something with it. You know, also my mom was like, "Well, what's next?" And so I went to university, and then I was so unhappy because I wanted to be an actress.
Mm-hmm.
And I
acting
always thought,
wasn't like an option at school.
right.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of acting schools were really hard to get into and very expensive. And so I always thought I'll just go to university and start studying something, and then I'll start auditioning or like take acting classes on the side. But I have a direction I'm doing, and I chose English because of English literature and like Shakespeare, and like tried to be as close to acting as possible. And then I was so unhappy, and I didn't have time to do anything else because I was just studying the whole time. I had to take Latin, like I had to study
my
Latin,
goodness.
and I didn't want to do that. And so I called my mom one day, and I was like, I don't want to be in university. I'm not getting anything out of it. I don't know what I'm going to do with this degree.
Yeah.
And I want to be on stage, and I want to drop out, get a job, and just, I don't even know, start auditioning or I didn't even have a plan. I just knew I had to drop out so that I could have the time and energy to figure it out.
And was she supportive?
She was.
Oh, that's fantastic.
She was. She's always been supportive. She's always been like, I never got to live my dreams. My mom can sing, and she used to like perform in little clubs. She's like, I never got to live my dreams. You just live exactly the life that you want to live. And she was like, don't worry about what people are going to say, because, you know, I grew up in a small town, and small town gossip is like a real thing, especially if you're a single mom with 3 children and people are always looking at you. And she was like, don't worry what people are going to say. I don't care. You do what you want to do. And then I just went to university, and I just filled out the paperwork, and I was like, I'm done.
We all need someone in our life like your mom.
Yeah.
To encourage our dreams.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
fantastic. So I mentioned before, and I realized that that's a word that means previously, but I'm saying BFOUR,
Yes.
which is a pop group
Right.
that Alina was a member of.
Yes.
So can you tell us how that happened? Because I would be remiss if I didn't ask about this on the pod.
Absolutely. I dropped out of university, and I got a job with a production company, and I don't know how, but I was looking online for castings,
Okay.
and I just found random open casting calls. And I went to one where they were looking for a singer for a band. And I was like, great, I'll
do
sing.
it. What song did you sing?
For this one, I sang Like a Virgin. Woo! Touched for the very first time. So, but that was a different casting.
Oh.
So I went to this one, and then this was in Cologne, and then I got a job with a production company.
From the
and-
singing?
No, for
Oh.
like,
They were
sorry,
like, she's
separate.
hired. She's like a
hired
great
as a
assistant.
PA, where she doesn't have to sing. And then I moved to Munich to work for this production company on a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was all within like a month of me dropping out of university.
It was the right move.
And then I was in Munich, and then I got a call from the talent agency that had something to do with that first audition that I went to where I
Yeah.
had to sing. and thankfully didn't get because that band went nowhere. And they were like, we have a callback but it's for a different band. And they already have a contract with the German Disney Channel and like this, that. And they're looking for a blonde girl. And you can go straight to callbacks because you did the other audition.
Incredible.
And it's in Cologne. And I was
Offer
like,
only.
I know. I was like, okay, I've been to 2 auditions in my life. This sounds great. And then I had to call out of work, lie to my boss in Munich, take the train back to Cologne, which is like an 8-hour train ride.
Oh my goodness.
Go to Cologne, go to the audition. Now this is the audition.
Yeah.
I saw, and I was like weirdly not in my head. I was just like doing. I had no stakes.
It all happened so fast.
I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, it also wasn't like, oh, you're going to be an actress now.
Right.
It was
right.
You're
There
gonna
was
be a
such
pop
a long
singer.
way ahead of me in my mind, and you're in your early 20s. You think you have so much time when you're in your early
Yeah.
20s. And then I sang Christina Aguilera, I Turn to You, and I had to dance.
Incredible.
I'm not a great dancer, so I just kind of like improvised. They played a J-Lo song, and I just danced to it like I would in the
love it.
club.
I want to see this audition tape so
my
badly.
God, me too. And then I had to do an improv scene, which I didn't know.
Improv scene?
Yeah, it was like because we were going to get our own TV show where it was very much like
I'm imagining the S Club 7 show.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
It was very
okay.
much like that. And it was very much like half scripted, but
You're, like,
mostly
playing
this is
yourself,
the
kind of,
situation,
yeah.
go, you know. And I did that. Went back to Munich, went back to my job, and then I was already friends with some of the people at the audition, so one of them had let me know that he got the message that he was cast, and I hadn't heard anything. So I was like, well, that's it.
Yep.
Didn't get it. And then I was sitting in a beer garden, and my flip phone rang. I answered it, and the voice on the other end goes, "Hi, Alina. I'm one of the producers of the band for before. I'm calling to let you know that you got it. You're in the band." And I was like, "What?" And then my phone died.
Wait, the story is so good.
I was like, "What?" And I was with friends, and I was like, "I think I'm in the band, but I don't know." Like I immediately, the imposter syndrome. I know the term has been like revised since, but the feeling of this must be a mistake immediately kicked in. You know?
So you got in the band, and then how long did you guys spend? Because you recorded albums, you
Yes.
toured, you had the show.
Yeah.
I've seen videos of these music videos. I recommend you all look it up because it is a 90s trip. Like, it's so
It is.
fun.
Yeah.
How
pretty
long?
cheesy.
How long were you in the band?
From 2007 to 2010.
Amazing. And then right after that, did you move to LA?
Sort of. Yeah. My friend and I were like, we're gonna go and figure it out when we're there. Like, we were like, we're either gonna go to LA now and try this impossible thing of like making it in America. We didn't even know what exactly we were trying to make, but just it in America. And we didn't have a green card or anything. And we were like, we're just gonna do it because if we stay in Germany and take a job here, we're here.
Yeah,
'Cause-
this was your chance
yeah.
to try something different.
Yeah. Because then also you already had a career there, and so I would have been like a TV host or something. You know what I mean? And I was offered a solo record deal in Germany for German music, but I knew the boundaries to that, and I knew it. And the producer was like, "You can do this for the rest of your life. Like this will be your brand. This will be blah blah blah." But I didn't want to do it for the rest of my life. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be an actress in American comedy movies.
I love that your whole life you've had this really strong sense of what you want.
Yeah.
I think that's really empowering to hear. And
And then in the midst of that, it's just self-doubt, 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 self-doubt.
well, of course, because we're only human. But like, despite the self-doubt, like, there's this idea, at least for me growing up, that like to be successful, you have to be super confident all the time. And I don't think that's true,
No.
or there would be very few successful people. But I think that it is like this innate drive and listening to that voice within you that's like, this is what I want and this is what creatively fuels me.
Yeah.
And then, dealing with the insecurity and self-doubt and, everything else.
It's all flaring up behind you and like, well, here we go. Walking into the fire.
That's incredible. So, okay, you do all of that and you have the experience of having like crowds screaming, and then you come and you're not like an immediate hit in LA. Was that really stressful for you, or did you not did you expect that like fame would translate?
I was always pretty good about knowing that things will always go away again and that
it's all transient.
I never expected to come here and for anyone to be like, finally, she's come to America. Like they had never, that before was solely a European thing.
Yeah.
And it was nothing that I was creatively attached to. Like it wasn't my, it wasn't what I wanted to do basically. And we did think we had just read The Secret.
Oh my goodness.
So it was that time that there was just a little bit of naivete, which I think in retrospect is great that we had that, because I don't think we would have stayed if we didn't have that.
Yeah.
Just naive dreamers. And because we had read The Secret, we thought as long as we just think about it, it'll just come, just happen.
Yeah, for those who don't know, The Secret was this book that like took over it felt like every corner of pop culture.
Uh-huh.
It was manifestation essentially, which is awesome and like definitely I think putting positive energy out there, you get it back. But it was just like
it was very simplified and
Yes.
it wasn't such part of our communication like it is now, where we had like
just the fact that it was called The Secret.
The Secret, and it was like, just think about it.
Just think about
I was like, I don't understand. Like, I'm thinking about a pink elephant right now. Where is it? But then I was like, great. If, it gave me sort of the false confidence to go through with a crazy idea. And
Make it till you make it, baby.
Yeah, I just sold everything I had in Germany and gave up my apartment so that I had nothing to return to and just came out here, blew all my money because I got a furnished apartment. I didn't have I wasn't allowed to work, or didn't have a social security number. Like I couldn't rent things. So I just got a furnished apartment, like sort of an Airbnb, which wasn't a thing back then, and rented a car for months and months on end.
Wow.
And then I kept going back to Germany every 3 months because you're only allowed to be here for 3 months
when you're traveling. Yeah.
On like this ESTA thing. And just blew all my money that I still had left from being a pop star. And then I had to pay taxes the next year and then it was all gone. I didn't also know how to manage money at that age.
I would still use some tips on that.
They should teach us that in school. Okay, different conversation. But it was chaos. It was like I was trying to make it as a singer because I thought I had to, because that's what was in my past, but I wanted to be an actress. And it was very crazy. And the realization that I'm on the wrong track with trying to make it as like a singer and trying to make it as quickly as possible so that I don't have to worry about money or a green card or all of that.
Right.
When it finally hit, it was rock bottom because it was necessary, because it was like, wait, this isn't working. And I don't want to be a singer-songwriter and I'm not good at it. And then I went back to Germany because I had no money. And then I started just working jobs and sort of like taking a moment to figure out, what is it that I want?
Yeah.
What is it that I want? And I couldn't hear my own voice for a long time, but everyone else around me was trying to tell me what to do,
Right.
You sort of reject it. And then one day, I think my mom was saying like, why don't you blah, blah, blah. And then I finally heard this like, no, I want to go to America, but I want to do it right. Like, I know I have to work really hard and like go back to zero and get a job and figure out a way to get a social security number and like take acting classes. And
you did.
I had a number, in my head, like 10,000 euros or something to come here, live for a couple of months, get a car, get a social security number, and apply for a green card. And the second I made the plan and had that determination, everything else fell in place for me. I got a job that made me a shit ton of money. My old tax person from before was like, there had been a mistake. You're getting money back. And it's like this
Whoa.
amount. And it just all was like, and then the money was in my account. I was like, well, there it is. I'm leaving.
Wow.
And then I came back. And then I came back
the
for
secret.
good. The secret. It finally worked.
Wait, that's incredible. Okay, wow. I love all of that. I do want to fast forward now
Yeah,
because you've
I talk a lot.
No, this is incredible. I mean, I think everyone's going to get a lot out of this. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit for those who are interested in a career in comedy about your experience at UCB and Groundlings. Like, what would you recommend for somebody who's like, you know, my dream is to be on SNL or to be a comedic actress or actor? I'm sorry, I don't like that I'm using actor and actress. It's like very ingrained in me and I'm trying to break that habit.
Yeah, I know. Me too. I always say it interchangeably.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot. I mean, I think Groundlings and UCB are both great. I loved studying improv and sketch comedy there. And most importantly, it's where I found my community. It's where I found the people that I would go on to just put shows up. And now we're also creating content together and going to Austin Sketch Fest together. And I never got so deep into any one of those communities, you know, like other people who are kind of big names in the improv scene or the sketch comedy scene. A lot of people that are on SNL
Went to Groundlings.
come from Groundlings.
Yeah.
The ones that come out of LA. So definitely recommend. I mean, I loved my time at the Groundlings. I would definitely recommend taking classes there and UCB. But also, if you're in LA or in Chicago, in New York, I mean, technically, it doesn't actually matter where you are. Just put your material up. Just do it. Just
'cause
Nike.
that feedback of like, that's what I loved about doing stand-up was I could have an idea, I could test it out at an open mic or a show, and I would know if it worked.
Yep.
And I think that's sketch is a bit more involved, I would say. No, just because there's props and there's usually rehearsal and whatnot in the typical process. But the same idea of, I think this thing is funny.
Yeah.
Is this my comedic voice?
Right. It's all about finding your voice, I think. And I say that to myself as well because I got so used to creating content that when the idea of live performing was scaring me at a certain point, because I was like, well, what if I come up with a character and it's not funny? Or what if the jokes aren't funny? You know, what if and so then me and my friends put up another sketch show and it never ends. Like, whatever it is, just do it.
I love that. That's really good advice, which I'm curious, like, as somebody who's so in this world and there are so many comedic legends, who are some creative inspirations for you?
When I first came to LA too, I was like, oh, I want to study where they learned their craft. We're like Kristen Wiig, you know.
Incredible.
Will Ferrell. Like,
Yeah.
I liked all those SNL.
People who are very physical and in their
Yes,
bodies. Yeah.
yeah.
Love it.
Who do I love?
Is there like a filmmaker or...
I mean, obviously I love Greta Gerwig.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Greta.
Everybody loves Greta.
I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yes.
And I love whoever wrote Search Party.
Yes.
Like, that is I love it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, all of that stuff, it ebbs and flows with comedy and drama.
yes.
I would say
Yeah.
like there's like really fun in and out moments.
Mhm.
And I mean, I agree with you. I think stuff that can play with your perspective and also like be really, you know, Search Party, for example, there's like murder and things that
Yeah.
happen that are very serious. And then you're also laughing like at a different point.
Oh, and you know who's great as a comedic actress is Jessica Williams.
Oh, yeah.
She's so good.
I love her.
I just watched her in something. I was like, man, I want to work with her. You know, you have those moments
Yes.
when you watch something. I love her.
That's fantastic. My last question is just like kind of the idea of your video of talking to your younger self. Like, what do you wish you could tell young Alina or any, person aspiring who's listening to do something similar to what you're doing right now?
Follow your curiosity.
Love it. Yeah. That's great. Simple and great. Okay, so this is a little rapid fire.
Yes.
You ready?
Yes.
Favorite SNL cast member?
Kristen Wiig.
Movie you could watch over and over again?
The Devil Wears Prada.
Person you'd love to work with, dead or alive?
Jessica Williams.
Something you have in your purse right now?
Wait, Robin Williams.
Robin Williams. Oh, that's good. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, something you have in your purse right now.
Chapstick.
Childhood celebrity crush.
That boy from Casper.
Casper?
Casper. Yeah, Casper.
Incredible.
When he becomes a boy for like 10 seconds, I was like,
He's the perfect man.
I want to kiss him.
Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Taylor Swift or Beyonce?
Beyonce.
Incredible! Wow, that was really fast.
got
Our
nervous.
hearts are pounding.
Yeah.
Well, now that I've given you a little adrenaline rush, thank you so much for coming on Daddy Dailies. Is there a place that our listeners can find you, follow you, see your work, and anything you want to plug?
You can find me on Instagram at Alina Bock, or my German Instagram is at Alina Bock _ what's the underscore dash thing?
Underscore, yeah.
Underscore officiel. I don't have anything I want to plug, but if you are in Germany or listening from Germany, I have a tour. I'm going on tour in the fall, and you can find the tour dates on my German Instagram account. And that's it.
Incredible.
That's it. And thank you for having me. I'm so honored. You guys are I love everything you guys do, and it's so inspirational to see you guys talking about this idea and then starting this company. And it's a women-driven, women-led company, and I just love is company the right word?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just love everything you guys do.
Thank you. That's really awesome. We love it too. I'm Vika Stubblebine. You can follow me at Vika Stubbs, STUBBS, and you can follow Not Your Daddy's Films on Instagram at NYD Films, plural, and also on TikTok. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time on Daddy Dailies. Bye.
Daddy Dailies is presented by Not Your Daddy's Films, a social impact organization dedicated to educating and empowering women and non-binary creatives in TV and film. If you like what you heard today, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a positive review. And if you want more Daddy episode insights and links to what we talked about, join us on Patreon /NYD Films. Daddy Dailies is produced in partnership with Robert Bailey and edited by Carly Tamarin, Vika Stubblebine, Claudia Restrepo, and Gracie Strauss. See you next